Coming.
We're good. Testing.
Oof. Is that a big snowblower or what to get out here? Ford does that once in a while. Mine does too. If I can let it sit for 2-3 days, all of a sudden it's dead. I said, check the lights, nothing. It's a Ford. Oh, Nancy's car in the garage dead too. Yeah. COVID. Okay, we got per diem. Is it, where Bill sick? Oh. Okay.
Good? Yeah. Are you good? Councillors Elliott and Nielsen, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I've got you. Councillor Elliott?
Thank you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'm going to start off with our open mic, and I've got 2 people registered. We're going to start off with Blaine Fuller.
Welcome. Oh, thank you. I feel like it's my place. Just really quick, want to say.
Yeah, you're going to have to sit down and use the
I have
mic.
to sit
Yeah.
down. This isn't cumbersome at all. We just wanted to take a couple minutes of council's time to actually recognize you, Mayor Gandam, your worship. We're heading off to the National Winter Games today, so we're super excited, and Mayor Gandam has been a big part of our floor hockey program, running with us this summer and doing all kinds of exercises with us, motivating our guys, that sort of stuff, getting his picture in the front of the newspaper to help support us. So certainly very, very grateful for all your support. From there, we have our 2 captains that, if they can approach the bench, would like to make a presentation.
Sure.
All right. This is Lawrence Lord, our captain, and Chester Stone, one of our assistant captains. And then we have 15 athletes going today to represent Team Alberta. So we're certainly very grateful. So go ahead, Lawrence.
This is your jersey from us.
Wicked. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Go Team Alberta! We are so very, very, very grateful for the support from the city, letting us train at the Manluck Center this summer when it wasn't safe, too hot, too smoky. So City Council, you guys have been a huge backing. So hopefully come back with gold, and you guys can share in all of that. So we appreciate it so much, Tyler. Thanks, brother.
Good luck. Have fun, guys.
Oh, we're going to have a time. Lots of pictures. Yes. Special Olympics Wetaskiwin. We're on Facebook, and we'll be streaming. And the games are actually being live streamed too, so we can.
Perfect.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have fun, guys.
You're doing a great job, and we love you, man.
Thank you. Next, we have John Frome. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning, I'm John Frome, and I have a hearing problem, but so does the city of Wetaskiwin. Now, I am here to pay my taxes again. 18th, I finally got my bill. Prior to that, I talked to you, Tyler, about getting the proper bill. What did I get? Another late notice. What kind of game is this? So are we going to take my check for the taxes today, yes or no? And I'm not paying late charges. Secondly, I went for a drive this morning. Our children, everything on 47th Street, we cannot grade the road. What is the priority of doing Hope Mission first? And besides, we don't want Hope Mission here, and that's many of us. So, where is our priorities in this town? Hope Mission or the taxpayers of this town? I'm third generation living here in this community, and I have a reason to say what I am saying. Now, in the previous meeting, for the third time, I asked, what is the tally sheet on the costs to our infrastructure of Hope Mission? Well, I'm asking now for the third time. With all the costs of RCMP having to babysit, my tax dollar being wasted, we can't fix a pothole in this town. And oh, by the way, pothole, I complained about it in front of Hanson's Paint this summer. I got the phone slammed in my ear. The usual tactic. Well, geez, last week it got fixed. Did Hope Mission hit it with their van and prompt it to get fixed? Now, dog licenses. When I got my license for my dog, it was permanent. So I won't be paying a yearly fee for the dog. And now we want a 5.5% tax increase for what? You also told me when I said, how come there was not a representative at the Wake Up Wetaskiwin meeting? You were on holidays. And I said, how come you can't appoint somebody to show up as representation of the city of Wetaskiwin? You told me you had no control over that. So, okay, our deputy mayor does not have guts to go to this meeting to hear the public, or does our city administrator have the guts to go to this meeting to hear what us, the people, have to say, and us taxpayers? Now, the community is the county also. How come the county isn't involved in a Hope Mission destruction of our community? Then you turn around and say to all of us taxpayers, if we don't like it, we can move and we will find a realtor. And that isn't funny. I am here today. John,
what is funny is that somebody's taken a video out of...
I hear distortion. Resign as mayor of this post and save our community. Okay, there are my questions today.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, now, I want to hear about my taxes, and I don't need to be escorted out. I'm a taxpayer. Well, we see how the city is run. It's dictated. Have any more secret meetings with the NDP lately? Yeah, have some more, Tyler. You're on camera.
Was there anybody else registered for open mic? Nope. Pardon? Yep. Looking for...
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
I can, yep.
Oh, because we're having trouble. I'm having trouble with the sound coming back here.
Okay. Looking for approval of the agenda. Any additions or deletions? Councillor Aberley, those in favor? Carried. Adoption of the minutes. Excuse me. Any errors or omissions? Looking for a motion. Councillor Billingsley, those in favor? Carried. Consent agenda.
I move that City Council approves the consent agenda as presented.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley. Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried. Item 8.1, Delegation Battle River Watershed Alliance. Good morning.
Hi. Thank you for having me today. There is a presentation that I'd like to show at the same time, if that's possible. And should I just ask you to flip the slides? Okay. So thank you very much. I'm Catherine Pierce. I'm the Executive Director with the Battle River Watershed Alliance. I'm very thankful to be here today and thankful for the ongoing support of Wetaskiwin City. We've had an opportunity to participate in some education programs in the last year, and I'd love to give you a quick update about what we're doing at the Watershed. Just to bring everyone up to speed, give everyone context, the Battle River Watershed Alliance is considered a watershed planning and advisory council. We are one of 11 WPACs in Alberta. Our role is to assess and report on the state of the watershed and take that information and that knowledge about our land and the quality and quantity of water that flows through the 30,000 kilometers that is our Battle River. We then work with our partners. We convene and collaborate with municipalities, with other stakeholders, with industry, and with our Indigenous partners to set priorities for watershed management. And our watershed management plan reflects that. And we also provide education and literacy around stewardship on how to care for the land and how to care for the water. So those are our key roles as a WPAC. And there are a couple of key projects I want to tell you about that we've been working on lately. We can go to our State of the Watershed report. So the first report was completed in 2011. We've now just done a new State of the Watershed report. That report was released in late 2022. We worked with a number of really great partners to pull this report together. We worked with the ECHO Network. It's an environmental community health observation network. And we also worked with the University of Alberta Augustana campus in Camrose, and then the Prentice Institute there through Lethbridge University. And they compiled the data for this report. It's 391 pages, and it tells us about the state of the land, as well as there's a new significant focus, and we can just change the slides, to focus on watershed health. So in 2011, it was common practice to show social, economic, and environmental factors as a report on state of the watershed. We've now branched out considerably, and we're showing more data around health, personal well-being and community health in particular, as well as climate change and climate impacts on our well-being, both of the land, the water, and ourselves personally. So what I'm here today for, and my first main request is to ask you to engage with us in our State of the Watershed reporting. So I'm going to show you a couple of quick slides to tell you what it's all about, but what we'd really love is some participation in our upcoming State of the Watershed Summit, where we'll really dive into the data that's available, tell you what the state of the water is, the state of the water quality and quantity, and what's happening on the land. So this is an example of how we have mapped data across our watershed. And we're, in this case, we're showing mammal species intactness right from the western point, which is Battle Lake at our headwaters, all the way through to Saskatchewan, where it meets up with the North Saskatchewan River. So I'll just show a couple more examples of what we have to offer in our State of the Watershed. This is a crop inventory as an example of land cover and land pressures that impact water quality. We can go to the next one. And on the health side, we looked at chronic diseases. Chronic diseases are in this because we show 3 different chronic diseases, but chronic disease is preventable. And this is an example of how the data is shown within the city of Wetaskiwin, the county of Wetaskiwin, and the differences of chronic disease representation across the watershed. And it's significant because this is a preventable disease, and it's also something that, as council, the policies and programs that you offer can help support the reduction of chronic disease and chronic disease management. We'll just go to the next one. Mental health has been a very significant issue in rural communities in Alberta, and we report on mental health across the watershed as well. The request that I have is for council to join us in learning more about that. So one of the things that we did to be able to do to provide this summit and share this information with our communities is we received an Alberta Community Partnership Grant. We have 3 counties that help participate with us as municipal partners, and this project and one other project is supported through our Land and Water Committee. So I'll just tell you a little bit more about our summit. The summit is coming up this Thursday. We're hosting it in Heisler. Your council would have received a direct request to participate. I'm here to ask, and you can talk about it after, but my official request is we'd love to have you there. We'd love to hear from you about how this resonates within your community, what the data tells you, and we're looking for ways in which we can talk about ways forward and setting priorities for caring for our land and water. We can just go to the next one. So this is a little bit about the summit and our other ongoing engagement efforts to learn more about how this new data resonates within the city of Camrose. So I will leave that with you. There is a direct link as well as an invitation to participate, and there will be other ways in which to participate as well. We have stakeholder interviews. We're doing these presentations to council, and we're meeting with our 4 nations at Muskogees, as well as the Métis Nation of Alberta. If we can go on, another big project that we're doing this year is a planning project, and that is looking at our watershed management recommendations and trying to sort out how those existing land use plans, whether or not they align with watershed management recommendations that are in our watershed management plan. So we have just done a survey of 38 of the 66 MDPs in our watershed. And of that survey, we will be providing a discussion guide to municipalities, and it will show where our current long-term land use plans align with watershed management goals and where there is areas to enhance those MDPs, those long-term land use plans. So from that, we're looking for input from council to say, how can your land use plan and our recommendations better align? Are we presenting some language and ideas that could be used in your community? Would there be pushback from your ratepayers? And we really won't know unless we have your input. So our next request is that you join us and participate in a discussion based on those discussion guides. These are an example of the cross-section of municipal development plans that we looked at, and from that, with permission from the community, we would also provide the City of Wetaskiwin with a implementation guide. That implementation guide will just show those ways in which you align nicely with long-term beneficial management practices or good policies for protecting the land and water, and where there could be areas for enhancement. It's just a tool in your toolbox to support good land use planning. And so my request today is that you come to the discussion forum. You will be receiving a discussion guide in advance, and we're looking for a representative either from your planning department and or I guess from council to come and talk about how those recommendations might fit into long-term planning. So that event will be April 12th in Camrose at our office, which is the Mayor Lake Center, or you can attend virtually on the 17th. So I'm going to leave that with you as a formal request to council for participation and discussion around aligning land use management. I also then wanted to just quickly run through a couple of key programs and ask for your support in promoting these programs. We have an Otis Award, which is outstanding in stewardship. We're looking for individuals in your community who you know are doing great things to support the environment. It might be in the area of agriculture, might be an individual, a youth, or an organization or a business, perhaps somebody who's gone above and beyond to reduce waste, an agricultural producer who's moving cattle away from riparian areas through fencing or off-site watering systems. It might be a youth program that you know is working to increase awareness about stewardship in our community. So our deadline is the end of February for that, but it's annual. And if you know somebody, please think to nominate them or let us know. We'd appreciate it. We also have a riparian care program. This program offers funding directly for landowners. It could be to plant trees or protect healthy tree stands. It might be a producer who's moving cattle away from the off-site watering system. It may be someone that you know who wants to support a community engagement program by helping kids learn about invasive species or aquatic invasive species. So we have some programming funding, and you should send them our way because we'd be happy to fund that kind of work. We have a blog that supports more information for community members about the Battle River and about how to protect both the quality and quantity. If you know a great writer who wants to tell the story in Wetaskiwin, something interesting, we'd love to have their piece online. Send them our way. We can keep going. Finally, and this is just the last two slides, but we do have education and literacy programs, both for school-age children, but also for adults. Right now, we're working with BRAID, the Battle River Alliance Economic Development, whatever. Oh, what does BRAID stand for? Heavens. It's the Economic Development Organization, and they're hosting a workshop on drought. We are going to be presenting there and providing more information on how both producers and folks who live in urban settings can support riparian care and basically support water quality. So on the education side, as many of you know, we're very pleased to say that we recently expanded our Waste in our Watershed tour from Camrose to Wetaskiwin. And I know that thank you for coming, Gabrielle. It was awesome to have you guys there. Bill, I think you were there too. Was Bill? Oh, was Bill not here?
Bill's online.
Bill's not here, that's why. I was like,
Yes, I was there.
oh, Bill, hi. Pigs in space. Awesome. Thank you for coming. And you know what? We've taken many a grade 4 classroom recently to that Waste and Watershed tour, and it's been really successful. It's getting really good reviews from our teachers. They're thankful to have this free education tour, and for some of you who might not know, you get to see the landfill, you get to see the the recycle center, as well as your lagoons, wastewater lagoons, and your water treatment plant. And the water treatment, all the city staff are fantastic. They're really good about taking the lead and sharing that information that they have with young people. And we're happy that the teachers are able to get that whole tour free. So it's one of the programs that we've been recently able to expand. We have a Discover Your Wetland program that our staff come out and deliver personally as well for grade 5s. This all aligns directly with the curriculum. And we have a new habitat tour, and kids come out to Big Knife Provincial Park to learn about the habitat and what different plants and animals can grow in that environment. We have an extreme science program for grade 7 and 12, and that one they look at macroinvertebrates, and we also come out free of charge for students and work with teachers and teach them what macroinvertebrates tell us about water quality. So there's some key youth programs. You each have a package with some information about our education programs. Please share that with the educators that you know. And finally, I wanted to just tell you about our Caring for Our Watersheds competition. This is a pretty cool event for young people. It helps promote science, technology, and with our grade 7 to 12 students. They are asked to provide a proposal on what you can do to improve your watershed. With that proposal, they can win $1,000 for themselves and $1,000 for their classroom. It's pretty easy cash. But we also fund some of their proposals. So we're happy to have kids participating in that. We don't have a lot of uptake in this area. So again, would appreciate if you put the poster up, if you shared it with teachers in this area. And the greatest thing is we are the coordinator for all of Alberta, and we bring that to Wetaskiwin. We host that at the Reynolds Museum, so kids from all, and their parents from all across Alberta come for the final competition. This year it's May 10th, and it's a pretty exciting event for them, and it's a great venue. So it's another way in which we can support the community. So please share your information. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present this to you. We appreciate the ongoing support from the City of Wetaskiwin and hope that you'll continue to partner with us on some of those key projects I mentioned today. So thanks very much for your time. I'd love to know if there are any questions before I wrap up.
I move that City Council accepts the Battle River Watershed Alliance presentation for information.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to, I'm always really excited about watersheds as much as I'm excited about trees. Like this is, I love this. But everything that you guys do is so impressive to me. Just the amount of programming that you do, the amount of events that you do, and they're all extremely educational. When I attended the Waste in Our Watersheds tour, I was so stoked the entire time, and I've seen all of our facilities before, but having our staff just explain how everything works, it's incredible. But I also got to attend the Caring for Our Watersheds contest last year, and I highly encourage council to go. It was probably one of the coolest things that I've seen in a long time, because the inventive minds of these youth is just, it's bar none. Like, it's incredible what they come up with for climate solutions, for environment solutions. Like, they are incredible to watch. And so I highly encourage council to attend that competition if they can, because it was so wonderful to see. So thank you for everything that you guys do.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you for your participation.
Councillor Eberly.
Thank you, Mayor Gandam, through the chair. I'm going to echo Councillor Blatz's thank yous and excitement. My question for you is, have you been able or had the opportunity to make this same presentation about the educational program either like to WRPS specifically, whether it's to the teachers or to their elected school board as well?
Yeah, I haven't been to the school board recently.
Yeah.
Our education lead has a few contacts, and I think provides that information to them regularly. But I haven't been to council, or I haven't been to the board, in front of the board in a while. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and that was just my recommendation to help you with that bit as well, is our teachers are amazing, and when they have new and different opportunities that they're aware of, I can see this happening and being very good. I suspect me sending them an email, it might get lost, right? So just going through that way. But again, congratulations and thank you. And for my love of the Battle River is through, well, obviously the nature of it, but it's also holds a huge history. Forever, time immemorial, that river has created land and humans and animals, and thank you for preserving it.
Great. Thank you so much. Great. Good suggestion, too.
Councilor Bronco.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you very much. I guess most people don't know the value of this ecosystem that we have. It's very important to our livelihood, to the environment, and to the whole system. One question. We are all worried about this drought coming up with,
Thank you.
and I wonder how much that was playing in your guys' mind till today. Not a good day to travel, but a beautiful day to have this water. All this snow, we could use another couple more feet of snow. But the ecosystem needed it, and it you know, looking at some of the pictures of the creeks, it's very beautiful. And we appreciate the work that you're trying to educate us, and you're doing. It's all in the good for our society. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. I will address the drought piece, and we had more drought information until recently. We took it out. I apologize. Drought has been a significant issue, and it will continue to be. This is the second year of a significant drought. We are in a stage 4 water shortage, as designated by the government of Alberta. And it's going to have significant impacts in this watershed where we rely solely on precipitation. We are not a mountain fed. We don't have glaciers to contribute to our water source. So we do depend on precipitation, and snow is a big part of that. And going into the second year of multi-year drought is significant. So we have organized 2 recent drought workshops for municipalities to support planning. We are now in the process of doing that kind of work on a municipal by municipal basis. So if there was any information or planning tools that you felt we could help with, we would be happy to do that. We have been engaging with the government of Alberta on a monthly basis now as they set up their water advisory committee. So we're getting ongoing updates, and we'll continue to provide information to councils as we get more information. We know on a positive note that the government of Alberta was not going to worry further about our drought situation until April, because that is when you get your peak snowpack. Today was a great example of that. We're very thankful. It's a good day, despite the drifting on the highway. But yeah, so we've been working with, we have some great planning tools to support it. I hope as a council you're thinking about all of those things, because in the next year we are going to be in trouble. Our flows are the lowest they have been in probably 30 years or more. And we have had 3 of our counties declare agricultural states of emergency downstream from us. But with reliance on your drinking water from Coal Lake, it is a significant concern, and planning and conservation and communication and awareness are going to be very significant for this community. Good point.
Anything further? Go ahead, Councilor Nielsen.
Thank you very much. Many of my questions were answered in the last comments, but I guess one of the things that I'm sitting in Mexico right now, and there is an awful lot of conversation around here about water similarly all over the place, and their use of aquifers. And I guess the thing that strikes me is that tourism being a big part of Mexican economy, we have no problem getting water to all the tourist zones, but the municipalities struggle to get consistent water supply. And on that note, I guess my question relates to with our water source. How do you, as an organization and working with the government, balance the business between ensuring water quantity for municipalities as well as water quantity for agricultural and industrial practices? How does that get balanced off?
Well, that's a great question. So that is the purview of the government of Alberta, it is, our understanding is that there are taken measures to suspend any water license transfers. There is also, I know all the municipalities have received letters about conservation and planning, and I think they're looking to municipalities to highlight concerns. So I think it needs to be a collaborative activity, is I guess what I'm saying. But you need to raise the alarm bells. And I think that the government of Alberta recognizes that, and their first priority is to say, we are, there are certain transfers that could be available, and they will limit that to ensure that those drinking water sources are the first priority.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anything further? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Committee of the Whole, RCMP Wetaskiwin Detachment 2023 Q3 report. Welcome, Inspector.
Good morning, everybody. Just bear with me one moment here. This one? Okay, so again, good morning, everybody. So this is the Q3 report, and it just so happens that this report lands at the end of 2023, so it's kind of a good capture of our annual statistics and kind of how we did as an organization and as a community for the year of 2023. So during this presentation, I'll go through our annual performance plan as well as some emerging issues, crime drivers, and then a brief discussion on the coming year. So we have, like I've said before, we have four priorities with our detachment, the first of which being community engagement. This quarter is coming fresh off the heels of our open house. So we took a little bit of a pivot on community engagement, and a lot of it revolved around our community safety well-being working group. We had the business working groups in through December to really get a temperature of where the community was at, and I think that's abundantly clear based on online rhetoric and kind of what we're hearing directly from the community. The business working groups were great, but really, I'll be frank, they petered off by the end of December, and I don't think there's another one scheduled. It was great to hear from the various businesses and how various crimes are affecting them. But several businesses, I will say, have reached out directly to me to kind of express that outside of the working groups as well. One very positive event we held, this was back over the Christmas time, we had Stuffer Cruiser event. Constable Corey Schultz and Constable Dan Schneider arranged this in partnership with Canadian Tire and a couple other businesses as well. I want to say Safeway as well, and raised over 800 pounds of food. So it was really great. Great turnout by the community. It was funny because we had a lot of lights on, and all the talk online was what's happening. Everyone went negative, thinking something big had happened, something bad, but it was a very positive event. Lots of people stopped by. The next priority is community safety. This stems largely from our social disorder piece. This is that perception of safety. So during this quarter, we've had regular meetings. We stepped up our meetings with the Hope Mission. We're pretty well in regular weekly contact with them, trying to improve practices and make sure everyone's safe, that sort of thing. During this quarter as well, there was the addition of the new rescue van, or the additional rescue van with the Hope Mission. I know one ended up in the shop, but we've really leveraged the use of that rescue van to take a lot of the burden off of the police. And we'll see further on in the presentation where that impact is. As well, during this quarter, this was a difficult one, but we addressed the encampment piece. That took a lot of work. Angela Gilchrist presented last time about our task force. So that's been continuing all the way up till last night. It's constant encampments being put up. Our members are really quick on taking them down. And I will say there is space right now in the mission because the weather has improved. So they're not over capacity. So legally speaking, we're in a position where we can take down encampments. But they're getting very, very crafty with how they set up. So it's pretty well a daily thing. I was talking to the briefing this morning. So we'll work further with the city on that. As well as a piece of community safety is this public safety campaign. So we have what's called the RAVE public notification system, and we just went live last week, so this slide is even out of date. It's ready to launch. We sent the first van out last week. Kind of a test, but it had to do with a stolen vehicle involved in a theft, so it was a quasi-armed robbery. So we broadcast it out to everyone who had already signed up, about 400 and some people, to be on the lookout for this specific vehicle. I think it was a Honda Civic. So on this, the next slide actually shows that's a pamphlet. We have them printed out, and I was negligent and didn't bring any with me today. But we'll make sure some get to the front counter here at City Hall. This is across Alberta that this is available. So when you sign up for this, use the QR code, sign into RAVE. You have to create an account and select which communities you want to receive notifications for. So I'd suggest for those interested to do City Wetaskiwin and Camrose as well, because we're on two kind of separate servers, but that'll encompass the entire detachment area. I did it myself on my phone, really easy, and I think once this catches on and we use it more and more, it'll be exactly what the community wants in terms of getting to know what's happening right now. We'll use it for crime broadcasts, like be on the lookout for X vehicle or this kind of person, whatever. But we'll also use it for advertising events, recruiting, town halls, that sort of thing. So it's a great way for us to speak directly to the community. I should note that it's a one-way street. It's us broadcasting out. If people want to get in touch with us, you still have to call 911. So it's not a call-taking app or application. So crime reduction, this is largely our targeting prolific offenders, but our crime reduction unit, our crew team, and our GIS have done outstanding work getting some guns and drugs off the road. So pictured here, that was from a suppression shift last month, where we took, that was an automatic on the left and then a handgun on the right, and that was in one night's work. So what's important here is that when we are smart with our use of resources, by utilizing services like the Hope Mission to take on the picking up our social disorder calls, we can focus more on our prolific offenders and target the high-end criminals. So this was a huge one. This was, like I said, one night's work from our crew team. They are still going after our most prolific offenders, but I will say out of our top 15 most prolific offenders based on harm score, there's only 2 that are still in the community. So others are either in jail or we've deterred them enough to find somewhere else to live, which is great. That's my goal. Unfortunately, it's somebody else's problem, but they have their own crew teams. So it's important we stay on top of that because it is a bit of a living list. The fourth one, I didn't put a slide in here, but employee wellness is our 4th priority. We've done several, well, Christmas is an easy one, lots of parties and potlucks and that sort of thing. I think we're doing very well with employee wellness. We struck up an employee wellness committee and leveraged some use of some high-end videos produced by the federal government to just five-minute quick hits on wellness, finance, all that kind of stuff. So it's been fairly well received. So the next slide here, the 2023 calls to service, and this is somewhat telling. We're essentially on par with where we were last year. Criminal code calls to service in 2023 received 8,915 calls to service, and that's just in the city of Wetaskiwin. That's basically statistically on par with where we were in 2022 and slightly up from 2021 when we were coming out of COVID. What I can say though, and the statistics will show, is that the types of crime has changed. We've maintained the same statistic amount of crime, but we've now pivoted to more of a social disorder and less on the high-end person's crimes like armed robberies, murder, knockwood, that sort of thing. The next slide, it's not this one, it's one a couple before. It's our heat map from when the crimes are coming in. This is very similar to what I showed last year. The vast majority of our calls to service are coming in midday between 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock. So utilizing this, being smart with our finite resources, when we utilize overtime or we need to schedule suppression shifts, et cetera, it's taking place during those really hot times. This is also a good graphic that, next time I host a town hall, this will come up. It's great to know for the businesses because that's when you really want to have your staff working. If you're concerned about theft or shoplifting, that sort of thing, this is when the activity is happening in town. And it makes sense. Everyone's up and about midday. Unlike last year I think Thursday was our busiest, maybe Wednesday. It's switched to Tuesday. So Tuesday is our busiest day of the week. So the next graphic is our top 10 types of crime based on workload. So this is the amount of time that our members put in. By far, the most times put in with mischief, and that's entirely social disorder. Those are calls received. So we're able to defer a lot of those to either Bylaw, Hope Mission, FCSS, anyone that's willing to help that can help. But 11.87% of our time's dealt with social disorder types of crimes. Number 2 is assault, and this is workload. This is the amount of time put in. So number 2 is assaults, which is largely domestic violence. And then Mental Health Act. We're actually, you'll see a little later here, we're statistically on par with where we were Mental Health Act-wise, maybe about 1% more than last year, but the calls are staying the same. It doesn't really reflect it on this, but the 5th one down there, sexual assault, is that's probably our highest increase year over year. For whatever reason, we have skyrocketed in the reports of sexual assaults. So we'll have to take a further dive into why that's the case, as well as arsons. We had a spat of arsons that really kind of hit the city last month before. But I will say, unfortunately, statistically speaking, that's also going to drive our CSI probably next year. I'm trying to forecast, but I don't see a reduction in our CSI based on what's gone up, what's gone down. We've reduced our homicides and our serious, aggravated assaults, so that reduced it, but now the arsons and sexual assaults have kind of replaced that. So I see us being somewhat high next year. The next one, this is just pure numbers. So we received 1,517 mischief calls to service. Now that does have to do with damaged property, but largely that's social disorder, public drunkenness, that sort of thing. And then the second, suspicious vehicle, and then disturb the peace. Those are all social. So our top 3 by volume are social-related calls to service, then going down to assaults being our kind of first criminal code file, or file type. So go down into our key crime drivers for our CSI last year were break and enter, mischief, and assault. So I've got a few stats here from where we stand year over year. With break and enters, we are trending down. This was a major concern with our businesses and our citizens around the city. So we targeted our hotspots to try to reduce, try to deter some of the crime. But we also focused on our prolific offenders, like with our crime reduction unit, with our top 15 offenders. So year over year, we've seen a 10% reduction in the break and enters, which is great. Still 222 break and enters, but last year we had 246. So a reduction of 14 is substantial. So the next slide, if it's, yeah, so this was the 2022. This is the one that everyone in this room has already seen. This is where all the break and enters were happening in 2022 that drove our CSI. And that's just for perspective. So the next slide down is, that's where our break and enters have shifted. So we did hotspot policing and reduced some of those hotspots. Now, there have been some emerging areas of concern. Kind of down to the southeast area, there's 2 glowing hotspots, and then one kind of center of town closer to the north. Those are related to storage units. We've had a real recent spat in storage unit break and enters, so we're working directly with the business owners to try to harden their properties through CPTED principles and to try to identify some prolific offenders in that area. Those 2 to the south, we've increased our patrols in that area at certain times of day. But to be perfectly honest, for an opportunistic criminal, it is kind of easy hits. So that's what's driving our break-in enters right now is storage units. So the next driver, this is mischief. Like I said before, this is our social disorder. Now our task force appeared to have some success, and this is how you look at the data, I suppose. So our task force took place back at the end of September and into October, so there's a slight dip there. We went into the green, but then saw a bit of an increase by the end of October when it went back up. I do attribute that to our direct face-to-face contact with our more common, more visible offenders in that area. And this would be a message for the powers that be, the province of Alberta perhaps, that it's important to have more members so we can do stuff like this. The downside to us having that task force for about a month and a half is stuff like our suppression shifts for our guns and drugs weren't taking place during those 2 months because we were focused on the social disorder side. So it's kind of, we have to try to strike a balance as an organization, but there's a big give and take in this community. The second you let your foot off the pedal on one side, it's going to increase on the other. So. But we have seen a 14% increase there. So this is a bit telling. This is last year's heat map for mischief. This is what was shown at our town hall, and you could see everything was quite hot down in the south side, and that's why we struck up the task force there. That blip further to the north, that was lingering from the old hub, as well as the rock soup, that was up that direction. So we focused all of our efforts for that task force down to the south. So the next slide shows how that's transitioned. So by focusing our efforts on the social disorder, specifically that task force, it really consolidated our mischief down in that, frankly, it's the Hope Mission area. But even that area has shrunk up. The businesses aren't quite as affected. We really kind of pushed them tight. Is the problem still there? Absolutely, but what we've done is we've consolidated it. So unfortunate for the south side, I would venture to say the people up north are seeing a vast difference in the vagrancy and social problems up to the north side. So we now need to focus our attention on those 2 hotspots down there. The hotspot further to the west, that was our encampment. That was that big, large encampment, which has now been taken down. So I suspect we'll see a bit of a change there as well, perhaps pushed closer to the Hope Mission area. What's important to understand here, though, too, is the Hope Mission. Because we're working with them more and more, we've encouraged them to call in everything. Before September, they were trying to take care of business on their own, because that's kind of how they do it in Edmonton. That's their understanding, it's what works. It wasn't working here, and that was feedback we got from the community. So the Hope Mission, if they have any problem whatsoever, drunk showing up, somebody's been kicked out, they will call us, which is going to result in that higher call volume. But that's an agreement we have with them because they're trying to put their best foot forward to show public safety. If they can't manage it, they'll leave with us instead of just kicking them out the door. I threw this one in here. This is important. This is our theft under largely shoplifting. Normally I would put a heat map in, but if I put a heat map in, you'd be able to see which stores to steal from. So I'll leave that out. But that being said, we saw a spike in October, and again, that was from our task force. Our task force worked directly with some of our more prolific stores that were getting shoplifted from, and did proactive, projects to try to target shoplifters and whatnot. So we actually, by being proactive with it, it resulted in higher volume. We now have, with our crime reduction unit, they've got WhatsApp talk groups with some of our more heavy hit businesses, and they've got a direct line to try to catch shoplifters that way. And I would attribute that to our now reduction in shoplifting between October and December. Quite dramatic, actually. We're still a 2% increase year over year, but over the last 3 months, we've seen a substantial decrease in our break-and enters. So that's what we've got. That's if there's any questions, comments on that. I'm not sure if we're meeting today on the next year's APP, but yeah, questions, comments on the current state of affairs.
Councilor Bronco.
Thank you. I move that City Council receives the RCMP 2023 Q3 report dated February 26, 2024 as information.
Moved by Councilor Bronco. Any comments, questions? Councilor Aberle and then Councilor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Gandam. Through the chair to Inspector Spans, and I have a few questions if it's okay. And when I was reading this last night, John, I sat to myself and I thought, there's lots of things where I've been concerned and forgetting about other things that really impact me, and the domestic violence and the sexual assault isn't acceptable. And I know we all know that, and it's are we looking at, or your intent of social problems that we're having is the increase ways to work? Because I think it's a lot like when we talk about all vulnerable populations, and this is why I don't like to refer to homelessness as the vulnerable population, because there's lots of vulnerabilities. It is not good. And how and what can we do?
I'm not sure I have the answer to that right here. I did neglect to put in this presentation the piece on spousal abuse because I had it last time and I didn't put into this one. So spousal abuse specifically for the city of Wetaskiwin, we've seen a 15% decrease in spousal abuse. The numbers are still staggering. 2022, we had 532 instances of spousals, and that's from verbal arguments all the way up to assaults, et cetera. This year we're down to 451, so we're about 1.2 domestic violence calls per day. Now, I will say domestic violence and our sexual assault side, those are investigations that are generally unaffected by our efforts to deal with the social disorder side, because those files are largely dealt with by our general investigative section and our domestic violence coordinator. Right now, she's a stand-in because our permanent coordinator is on parental leave. So Constable Aaron Tallis has taken on the bulk of the work with the domestic violence and sexual assault. She reviews and does most of those interviews. So.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to do some thinking, and there's no blame. It's just really to bring that out, and we have lots of things that we can be working on, and that one really, I think I read everything, and then I had let that go, so I had let that go in my head. I needed to go up. The rest of it is good things. The rave program, I signed up to it too because I got an early, I got a sneak peek at it, and so thank you very much. And these are one of the things that you love, and I talk about, the city has a texting thing too that'll tell me if my garbage is delayed or all of those. I use that as, there's a council meeting, sometimes I need it to remind me I have to come to work, and all that. So thank you for the rave, because it really is an easy thing that comes through our phones. I wanted to say also, I had on Friday, and it was just because you brought up the Hope Mission van. I had a gentleman pass out in my foyer at the museum, and I sat with him until Hope Mission came. And again, and I was thinking while I was sitting there that in the past this would have been a call either to you guys to come across the parking lots or trying to get the ambulance in. And I was grateful. They were great with him. Everybody who walked through my doors that day, nobody looked at me funny. Nobody looked at him funny. This really is a great community, and I'm just thankful for the opportunities we're starting to see. And last but never least, Constable Schultz and Snyder. I do have that opportunity to see them more often, I think, than others. And I just want to say kudos to you and your team. They are two amazing human beings, and I love it every time I see them. So thank you.
I'll relay that message. They are great, perfect for that job. And for those who are unaware, Schultz and Snyder, they're our community policing members. And I prioritize those positions because they're the forward-facing side of the organization. Often, the RCMP will leave those spots vacant to supplement operations, but we need that softer side, the school presentations, the recruiting, interacting with the public. That's part of our engagement side, and they are incredibly engaged. Like, I don't want to give them glowing reviews because somebody else will poach them on promotion or something, so, yeah.
Councillor Blatz.
Thank you. Through the chair to Inspector Spans, I have kind of similar concerns to what Councillor Aberley was talking about. For the domestic violence side, would you say that Wetaskiwin has higher rates of domestic violence than surrounding communities such as Camrose?
I don't see the Camrose stats because they're a municipal force.
Okay.
We definitely have a higher rate than Camrose County, but I think that's just, we have the volume of people we have here significantly more. It's Camrose County is all rural, but I don't, because I'm not connected to the internet, I don't have the provincial stats in front of me. I can get them though.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say we're, in terms of like a rate, you know, I would say we're on par with similar sized municipalities.
Okay, thank you. I was just, yeah, when you're saying 500 and something calls per day to down to 400 and something, I'm like, that's still
a lot.
Not good, or per year. But yeah, that's still not great. But it made me wonder if this is just the average that we're seeing across the province, or if we're just an outlier that's not great. My second question had to do with the sexual assault side. Is there a trend with the ages for what these cases have been? Like, has it mainly been under 18 or over 18?
From what I've seen, it's all over 18.
Okay.
Generally, there's some younger ones, there's some that are very complicated in terms of consent, not consent, age of consent, all that kind of stuff. Largely, it involves adults. I don't have the exact number. It's about 55. We have 55 reports of sexual assault. Last year was about 35, so it's a concerning increase. The statistics kind of fresh to me as of Thursday, Friday. So if you got Jarrett, our analyst, to kind of break down a bit more of a breakdown on age and commonalities, that kind of thing. I can say we faced this when I was working for Central Alberta District. An area detachment had a significant increase in sexual assaults. And what it came down to is there was congregate living facilities, like group homes, we're seeing a spike. And then a lot of sexual assaults involving consent. So we tackled that by putting presentations in the high schools about consent. And that actually reduced it significantly. And we went to the congregate living facilities too, to talk about that, and it dramatic decrease. Yeah.
No, that's really good to know. My last question you may or may not be able to answer then, which was how many of those cases were a random attack versus the person was known to the victim already?
I can say I don't know of any random attack.
Okay.
These are all known. And I can say that with 99% certainty. If it was a random attack one, that's a totally different approach to the investigation, and we haven't had any of those this year.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Bronco.
Thank you, Chair, through John. John, I don't, Inspector John, I don't see any traffic or accident things, reports here, what do you hide it under? I shouldn't say hide it. What, what do you put on it? Because mostly, you know, we see the presence of you out there giving speeding tickets, what the traffic count is.
So that I do have, because it was on my spreadsheet. I didn't include it in the presentation because, to be perfectly honest, we're not doing a lot of traffic, so the numbers are low, relatively. And that's just our detachment. So we have the traffic unit. We have got a 5-person provincial traffic unit based out of our office. They don't report to me. They're on a totally different business line. They're the ones that likely you see out and about. But I'm going to ad-lib here a little bit. In the city, we only had, nope, that's the wrong stat, stand by. 221 collisions in the city, which is a 5-year low. So it's trending in the right direction there. We received 508 traffic complaints in the city. This is concerning. We had 45 people run on us. That's a trend all across the province, like a lot. People are not stopping. That one doesn't seem accurate, but I question the stats on that. It says we only had 1 suspension, but we have a member that pretty well every day he works, he's issuing an alcohol-related suspension. That's why I don't think that number's right. But all that to say, the statistics haven't really shown that traffic in the city proper is an issue, like statistic issue, so we haven't dedicated a lot of resources to it. We're more reactive on that side. That being said, in our annual performance plan, we have joint force operations as one of our activity priorities. So the goal is to have our members hook up with CP Rail, the Bylaw officers, peace officers, and traffic services and do high visibility check stops, that sort of thing. And they have been, not as much in December, but they have been a little bit, and then they have a couple planned next month, I believe. Frankly, heads up, it's at the cross section of 13 and 2A where it divides and just turns into the Autobahn, so we'll be setting up there. We have received a lot of complaints there.
And drunk driving, much in the city's come down quite a bit?
I wish I had the stat. This one's definitely not accurate. It has to do with how the stats are run, I think. So criminal code drunk driving is essentially next to zero now because the legislation has changed. We now have immediate roadside sanctions. And like I said, we have a member who's sanctioning probably 1 every day. So it hasn't come down in terms of drinking and driving. Yeah.
So my last question, I think a lot of people, pre-COVID to now, affected all of our crimes, correct? And the stability of our economy, where everything's so high in there, I tend to find it, where we're working in our society today, it's causing a lot of this instability.
There's a few things. I think COVID, I wouldn't blame COVID for it, but it's a good place and time to see where things have shifted. Inflation, cost of living, but what we've seen is the prevalence of new drugs, fentanyl, carfentanil, the prevalence of those it's insane. And that just started about 3-4 years ago is when those started emerging. And that's where we've seen that go hand in hand with the social disorder piece. And it's kind of one thing led to another, and it's this vicious cycle, it seems. And we're seeing it all across the board. For whatever reason, we're seeing more gun violence as an organization, internally here as well. We had a 257% increase in careless use of firearms in the last 5 years. So something's up there. I wouldn't blame COVID for it, but that was kind of when everything started shifting.
Thank you.
Councillor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Inspector. Inspector, with the 911 calls, are they all legitimate, or do you get a lot of false 911 calls?
Let me find that. I might have that stat. There's not a lot of false 911. They'll get weeded out. We won't get dispatched to those. Our telecoms and our RTOC, so our real-time operations center will weed those out. We might not actually see them. But stand by. It's negligible. We were only dispatched to, let's see here. I shouldn't say it's negligible, it's still a lot. 140 times we were called to false 911 or abandoned 911 calls in 2023. So one every couple days. Often those are people pocket dialing and all you hear is rustling, so that has to dispatch through. Often it'll be kids playing with decommissioned cell phones, because even if it's decommissioned, if you dial 911, it'll dial through. I wouldn't say, I don't have the stat if any were frivolous, but 140 for the year.
Thank you. And just one other question. With regard to drug houses, if people want to report a drug house, it's confidential, correct?
Yes, they have to be explicit in saying they don't want to be identified.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anything else? I met with Walmart, their manager, a few weeks ago, and he had talked about the great relationship that they've had with the RCMP. Their assistant manager had direct access, whether it was through a messenger or a phone call with a direct line, to the point where a couple of times when they were being robbed and they would just grab and run out the door, the RCMP were waiting outside the door for them to, so he was really impressed with that and enjoyed that relationship.
That's been I'll relay that message. That was a huge success from that task force, for sure.
Yeah. Good. If there's nothing else, ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 9.2, 2023 Citizen Reporting Tool Overview of our final quarterly report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. The 2023 final quarter report shows 380 requests coming in, 35 remain active. Those are longer-term needs like facility issues that would require tendering. So 345 have been closed, and 8 still, the average days to close are 8 days. So we've got a 91% completion rate. It's still a little bit slow for the pickup by the community. We're getting about 1/3 of the calls in from the community and 2/3 still coming from staff, although some of those are citizen complaints that staff just enter. So we'll do a little bit more to promote this reporting tool to the community, but we're getting the days to respond down and continuing to close at a very high rate. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Looking for a motion. Councillor Billingsley.
Thank you. I move that City Council accepts the quarterly citizen reporting tool update dated February 26, 2024 as information.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley. Go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair to Sue. Is it the manager's responsibilities, like who follows up to make sure that things, the process of when it's reported, actioned, and then closed? How is that? What's the steps involved in that?
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley. So each manager is responsible to review their area's complaints that have come in and monitor what was going on. We get monthly updates. Actually, we just got one today. So GIS, that the complaints come in through our online system. They track the departments and the number and all the stats, and then they send it to the leadership team every month, and the managers are required to go in and make sure that they're following up and that things are being closed within appropriate timelines.
Thank you.
Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you. Through the chair to Sue. Sue, just really quickly looking at some of the data. I'm looking at the Civic Center building and the Manlick building. 31 and 49 reports, totaling 80, which was about 20% of all the reports. Do we have sort of any sense of what those 80 facility concerns would be, and what might have been generated by public versus staff?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, I don't have the details on exactly what. I do know the few that I was involved in were, they could be minor ones, like a locker is broken or a tile is loose, reported by the public. We're still averaging, I think, a third by the public and 2/3 by staff. We could dig in a little bit deeper if council wants that information on what types of complaints they are, but I don't have that information on me right now.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be requesting that at this point. I just, depending on how our next report goes, I may ask for a little bit more detail, but not now. My next question, through the chair to Sue, is we have about 12% of the total 380 respondents talking about missing or broken garbage bins. How do we resolve broken or missing bins? Does it come as a cost to the city or cost to the resident, and how is that handled?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, if the bin is or garbage can is broken just because of age, the city replaces it. If it is broken because of the contractor, we go to the contractor. And if it is broken because of the resident's negligence, then we would charge it to the resident.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Bronco.
Thank you, Chair. To Sue. So Wayne kind of asked one of my questions. So these high reports or complaint, do they get first priority versus the one that's just one? Do you look at the highest and go down the list, or?
Through the chair to Councillor Bronco, no, they come in and are prioritized by the department. So if it's, let's say it's a tree pruning and it's an elm tree and we can only do elm trees between October and March, it could be shifted if it's in the summer. That's a bad analogy. We would go immediately if it was in the summer because of Dutch elm. But they would look at it and then just prioritize based on urgency. So if there's an entire tree down, they're going to go respond to that quicker than a broken garbage can.
Thank you.
Anything else? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried. Item 10, Community Organization Property Tax Exemption Regulation.
One second. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I forgot that this was a tabled motion, so we're going to need a motion to lift from the table before we can...
Okay, looking for a motion to lift this from the table. Councillor Billingsley, those in favor? Opposed? In favor or opposed? Thank you. Councillor Aberley.
I need to remove myself for pecuniary interests. Thank you.
All right, let's talk about COPTER.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
The Community Organization Property Tax Exemption Regulation was presented to Council on February 12, 2024. The COPTER regulation allows for property tax exemption to organizations operating in our community. Council had a couple of questions when it was presented at the February 12 meeting in relation to roll number 181130, which was shown on the table as Wetaskiwin Mall, and roll number 192110, which was shown on the table as Wetaskiwin Nut and Bolt. Administration has corrected this as the application came from the Peace Hills Bingo Association for roll number 181130, and the application was for the McMahon Youth, Family and Community Services for roll number 192110. We also received a question from Council in relation to the space occupied by these organizations. The Peace Hills Bingo Association occupies 1,200 square foot in the mall, and the McMahon Youth Family and Community Services occupies about 5,000 square feet of space. The property tax exemption is limited to the percentage of the space that is occupied. The goal, however, of this RFD is for us to have documentation in relation to the exemption that's provided to these properties. As you'll note from the agenda package that's provided to Council in the attachment, a lot of these properties are already exempted from taxes, but we do not have the applications on file as yet. Administration's request with this RFD is that Council approve these applications for property tax exemption for a period of 3 years. I also forgot to mention the Wetaskiwin Food Bank was another question that came up during the last council meeting. There are services that are held at the location where the Wetaskiwin Food Bank currently operates. Religious services organizations are exempt under the Act from property taxes, no different from churches, mosques, temples that carry out religious services. However, the Wetaskiwin Salvation Army, not just the food bank, the Salvation Army Food Bank. The Wetaskiwin Salvation Army did send in applications for a couple of the units that they do use in the organization to fall under COPTER and are requesting an exemption from property taxes. Thank you.
Councillor Blatz.
I move that City Council make exempt from property taxation for the 2024 taxation year all of the community nonprofit organization properties for which a current property tax exemption application has been received for the 2024 taxation year.
Moved by Councillor Blatz. Any discussion? Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair to administration, I guess. And I guess I'm just trying to understand process a little bit. How do the organizations demonstrate to a 60% level the conditions that they're supposed to meet in order to get the exemption?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, we do ask that each of these organizations complete an application form, and we do reach out to them. We are not required under the Act to go inspect whether or not they comply. We expect them to honestly disclose whether or not they meet those requirements. From most of these organizations that applied to the city this year for exemption, we did contact and speak to make sure that they meet the requirements of COPTER. And as provided on the table, they have responded yes. We as administration have not attended their events to confirm that they do operate as they've attested to. We do expect residents to be honest in their declaration to council, and that's what we've gone by. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that response. And then again, along the same line, the motion is to exempt those that have made application. What is the status of those who have all of them made application, or are there some that are still outstanding?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, we contacted our assessor and requested for a listing of all non-profit groups that we are aware of that own or lease property and have roll numbers within the city of Wetaskiwin. We used that list and sent applications to every single one. This is the listing of applications that we've received back. If there's anyone that's known on the list that's not applied, the application is available on the City of Wetaskiwin website. They can still apply, and we would bring those applications to council for approval. Thank you.
So is it safe to assume then that if they have not applied, they would be given a tax notice?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, yes, they will receive a tax notice because they have not been exempted from taxes by council or by the Act. If they fall
Thank
under
you very much.
another, okay, thank you.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Councillor Bronco.
Thank you, Tyler. I've just a question to Sue, or don't know if it's, how would I say it, reasonable to ask. Since we have nonprofit organizations like churches, I don't know if it's a dumb question or not, but I see fire hydrants on their property. If something would happen to that because they don't pay taxes or anything, would that be the responsibility of the city or not? Because it's sitting in a land that we don't collect taxes from.
City assets.
Thank you.
Anything further? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
I move that these property tax exemptions remain in place for 3 years up to and including the 2026 taxation year.
Moved by Councillor Blatz. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried. Item 11. Sorry, we'll wait for Councillor Aberle to come back in. Item 11, council committee reports and attendance.
I move that City Council accepts the council committee reports and attendance as information.
Start us off, anything you'd like to highlight?
Nothing in the report it's as presented, but I do want to say that a few of us attended the Chamber of Commerce Awards dinner on Saturday night. The positivity within the business community, I thought, was incredible. It was really nice to attend a positive event that showed that the business community is vibrant and positive. And congratulations to the nominees and the award winners.
Councilor Bronco?
No, not much to say. We really enjoyed, learned a lot from, I think, from the Canmore. I think for us as a group, very well done who organized it. I think we need more of those because we all know some days we're pulling our hair out. But very good, I think.
Not all of us.
No. Sorry, Dean. But I think it was very good for us to be there and for us to be together. Thank you.
Councilor Blatz?
Thank you. I don't really have much, but the one thing that I really did want to highlight was Carapace has been doing human libraries. I know that they're calling it something else now, but they've been doing it kind of monthly now, and they are so interesting to attend because it's very positive. It's a great event, and you get to know community members that you would have never typically have met, and it gives you the opportunity to meet people from different walks of life and learn their stories and the people that make up our community. So I just encourage people to go to that event whenever they have it because it's a really great event. Thank you.
Councilor Elliott?
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Nielsen?
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor.
Perfect. I did lots of stuff. Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried. She doesn't. She didn't submit a report. Item 12.1, Water and Wastewater Bylaw 2045-23.
Good morning, Council. Today before you we have the water and wastewater bylaw. We are proposing just some minor wording changes. The previous bylaw was passed in December of 2022, so we're just looking to get first reading today, and then we would bring it back for second and third at a future meeting.
I move that City Council gives first reading to the Water and Wastewater Bylaw 2045-23 as presented.
Moved by Councilor Aberle. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Opposed? Did you want to speak to it?
Well, to me, I don't know if I should or shouldn't. It's not. It's the principle. We're talking to wastewater, and a lot of people on Airport Road who are not tied into our system are being charged for wastewater. And if we charge for wastewater percentage of your water bill, some of these people are not connected to it. So it just, I can't say I'm speaking for myself. I'm speaking also for the residents on Airport Road. So if the wording could be maybe changed to say it's part of the fee for our wastewater treatment center, I think they'd be more favorable than to say wastewater when the percentage is wastewater. So if there's a flat rate.
Are you proposing an amendment?
Oh yeah, I would propose an amendment just for the wording.
Okay, so highlight which section you're talking about and then.
Just for the flat rate for wastewater. I don't know what that would come up. Just to say it's for increment our wastewater treatment plant. I think Sue has a question.
Go ahead.
Through the chair to Councillor Bronco, I think the wording or the definition of it should be in the fees and charges, because that's where we break out the different fees and charges, and we do have a schedule of people with septic fields or tanks and the different charges that they get. And I believe, I'm not sure if that's up on the Peace Hills website yet or not, but I'll double check. There is an explanation on who gets charged what, but every utility customer, whether they are directly connected to the system or they haul their waste, has to pay that capital fee. We have had a couple of comments on the bill itself about being some confusion, so I think maybe in the fees and charges is where we should define some of those terms.
And Sue, I think we had this talk. Some of those people who get their pump outs or whatever, or sucked out, do not necessarily drop it off in Wetaskiwin. They go somewhere else, whoever gets it. So I think me and you had that, just to clarify it. It's not the flat rate. I think it's the principle behind it. So I'd be happy if we have the fees and like that. So, and I can remove my motion or to do that if it's going to be, if it's already there.
Okay. Item 12.2, bylaw 2056-24 to regulate the form and content of safety codes.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
So bylaw 1831-14 Safety Codes Permit Bylaw set out regulations respecting the city's powers and duties as an accredited municipality and respecting fees charged for the permits issued or services provided pursuant to the Safety Codes Act. It's subsequently been amended a number of times to update its references to the relevant fee schedules. And so an administrative amendment is again required to refer to the city's most current fees and charges bylaw. So for clarity and ease of use, we're proposing this amendment just as a repeal of the existing bylaw and all amendments thereto, and its replacement by bylaw 2056-24. In your information package, you'll see that there's a red line version just of section 10 of the bylaw, illustrating very limited changes. There's just 3 references to fee schedules needing to be changed. All other sections are unchanged. With that, I'd be happy to answer questions.
Councillor Aberley.
Sorry. I move that City Council gives first reading to bylaw 2056-24 to regulate the form and content of safety codes.
Moved by Councillor Aberley. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried.
I move that City Council gives second reading to bylaw 2056-24 to regulate the form and content of safety codes.
Moved by Councillor Aberley. Any discussion? Ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried.
I move that City Council gives unanimous consent to move to third reading of bylaw 2056-24 to regulate the form and content of safety codes.
Moved by Councillor Aberley. Ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
And I move that City Council gives third reading to bylaw 2056-24 to regulate the form and content of safety codes.
Moved by Councillor Aberley. Any discussion? Ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 12.3, bylaw 2055-24 to repeal bylaw 1830-14, development fees.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This bylaw is similarly administrative. Bylaw 1830-14, which is provided in attachment 2, was put in place to consolidate elements of other policies and bylaws to create one comprehensive fee schedule for land use planning, engineering, development, and building permit fees at that time. Since 2021, all of our municipal fees have been consolidated into first a master rates bylaw and now a fees and charges bylaw that is updated every year. So as a result, Bylaw 1830-14 and all of its amendments are no longer required. And so we recommend the repeal of this bylaw.
Councillor Aberley.
I move that City Council gives first reading to Bylaw 2055-24 to repeal Bylaw 1830-14, development fees and all amendments thereto.
Any questions? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried.
I move that City Council give second reading to Bylaw 2055-24 to repeal Bylaw 1830-14, development fees and all amendments thereto.
Moved by Councillor Aberley. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried.
I move that City Council gives unanimous consent to move to third reading of Bylaw 2055-24 to repeal Bylaw 1830-14, development fees and all amendments thereto.
Moved by Councillor Aberley. Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
And I move that City Council gives third reading to Bylaw 2055-24 to repeal Bylaw 1830-14, development fees and all amendments thereto.
Moved by Councillor Aberley. Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Item 14.1, closed session. Item for discussion pertaining to the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Councillor Blatz.
I move that City Council enters into a closed session at 10:37 a.m. to discuss items pertaining to the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, Section 24.
Moved by Councillor Blatz. Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried. Councillor Elliott and Nielsen, your link is in the calendar invite. Welcome back. Looking for a motion to come out of closed session. Councillor Blatz, those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. New business. Anything we're adding to new business? Councillor Aberley.
Thank you. I would like to put forth a notice of motion, and I apologize, to give notice of bringing forward a motion at the March 11th meeting. Council about external funding for solar installation on residential properties.
Okay. Thank you for your notice of motion. That doesn't need its own 15.4 because we're not voting on it, right? Or do you have it? Yeah. Okay. Councillor Billingsley.
Thank you. We talking about having this as a today's motion, correct? Okay, so I want to add something to the effect of addressing misinformation within our community.
Okay, so 15.4 will be misinformation, addressing misinformation. Anything else? Nope. Those in favor of adding 15.4, addressing misinformation?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We'll do 15.1, permission to travel out of country.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I am requesting permission to travel to Pittsburgh for the ICMA conference this year. It's in September. It is equivalent to the CAMA conference that is held in Canada for city managers, but it is on a much larger scale, and there are a lot more learning opportunities. I have outlined the costs that are all within my training and development budget and would be willing to cover the costs of travel personally if council does give me permission to travel out of country. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Aberley.
Thank you, Mayor Gandam. I move that City Council approves out-of-country travel for the City Manager to attend the ICMA conference as requested.
Moved by Councillor Aberley. Any discussion? Yep.
Mr. Mayor?
I've got Councillor Aberley and then you, Councillor Elliott.
Thank you.
I support this motion that I put forward. Education is one of the education and networking, which is part of professional development, is one of the best ways to get new ideas and to work out even some of the thoughts that might be going on in your head onto different approaches to do things. And I'm excited for the opportunity to see that coming from a more international stage, because there are a lot of challenges across North America that many communities are facing, and seeing what else you can learn from our neighbors and our friends. So,
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also support this motion, but I feel that if the city manager is traveling on behalf of the city of Wetaskiwin, then we should be paying for travel as well. Whenever the rest of us travel, we get our travel paid for, and regardless of whether it's in Pittsburgh or St. John's, Newfoundland, I think the city manager should have her airfare paid for as well. Thank you.
I agree. I was going to say the same thing. Would you like to make an amendment, Councillor Elliott?
Well, I don't know if I was looking at the motion and it says we approve out of country travel. So it doesn't say what expenses are in there. So to me, I know it's in her notes, but it's not necessarily in the motion.
That's why you would need to include it in the motion if you're going to make an amendment to include.
Okay, then I will make an amendment to include that the city also paid travel expenses.
Thank you. To the amendment, Councillor Billingsley.
Thank you. Through the chair to Sue, do we have this within the budget? I mean, I'm not disagreeing with what is being said there, but there obviously is financial consideration.
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, we do. I have money set aside for FCM that I am not attending this year, and then I have a separate travel budget as well where it could be used for this. Yeah.
So it would fit within?
It would.
Thank you.
Anything else? Sneeze left me. To the amendment, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Anything further on the motion? Out of country travel. Ready for the question? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried unanimously. Item 15.2, Wetaskiwin Treaty Partner Gathering.
Good morning, Council. Report has been drafted by administration to bring forward a notice of motion for Council to consider directing administration to host a regional treaty gathering hosted by the City of Wetaskiwin in 2024. Administration has drafted a recommended motion, and we'll ask Councillor Bill Elliott to speak to this notice of motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that the City Council directs administration to explore hosting a regional treaty gathering in 2012 and report to Council with, so that's what you're doing already, Paul, right?
No, you have to give them direction through Council.
Okay. And to report back to Council with an overview of proposed scope, dates, and costs by the end of Q1 2024 for consideration. Speaking further to that motion, August 9th and 10th last year, a number of us traveled to Enoch for a treaty gathering, and it was very interesting to share time with people from the jurisdictions around us to learn more about the fact that we're all treaty people and how the treaty affects us and our communities. And I feel it's a very worthwhile endeavor and would support this motion. Thank you.
And just to make sure the motion is correct, we'll be hosting or looking to host the regional treaty gathering in 2024, not 2012.
Oh, did I say 2012?
You did, yep.
Oh, jeepers, I'm sorry. Yes, 2024. And Mr. Mayor, just one thing further, we're looking to partner with Musquechies, obviously, on this.
Any further discussion?
Thank you.
Ready for the question? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. 15.3, Public Engagement Initiative with Connect Wetaskiwin.
I will go ahead, and I'm just going to go straight into the motion and then talk about it. I move that City Council directs administration to explore opportunities to partner with Connect Wetaskiwin to conduct 3 public engagement sessions and report back to Council by April 8th, 2024. I don't need to tell anybody in this room or watching that this community really is at a watershed moment. We are in a variety of different crises, and a lot of people are hurting. I have had multiple conversations over the last month or so, and people are literally saying, Karen, we're screaming for some, and we're just screaming, and it's not only ever about one thing. We're highly focused on important things happening in our community, but they're feeling unheard on different levels, not understanding what's going on multiple ways, having the ability to, whether or not there's trust in neighbors, trust in various levels of administration, trust in what people are saying. And I had met in September as a community member. In my other role, I had met with members of Connect for, and we had been speaking with a member of administration about other ways that we can engage. There are our standard ways of engaging community that we follow through, that our staff has capacity to have and has the capacity to do. And I am not challenging what they did. I'm challenging whether or not we're at a point where it's enough. And if we can looking at an outside group that is a grassroots connected, and I don't want to make a joke of that, but they are connected to community members. They're looking to go out and use, one of their ideas was to use groups in the community, whether it was neighborhoods, social groups that come together to be able to start having discussions. This would not be led by administration in that sense. We could, and that's why I want administration to come back and get some more ideas from Connect on what those 3 sessions might look like, or what that might happen in the cost to it. But it's really just taking a different approach. We have 4 strategic priorities. Community is third. I argue always that they should be on equal peers, not valued 1 through 4 in that motion. And I feel that that peer of community in engaging with our community needs its hand up. It needs some help. And if we can look to a local group that is already starting to make those connections, we are going to be way further ahead at the end of 24 than we were when this was first discussed. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Aberley. Any discussion? Councillor Billingsley.
So what are you looking for administration to do, and like what's the ask of us to them to help Connect?
Connect had come forward prior to the budget deliberations with a proposal that was not put into our budget discussions, and maybe start from there is looking back into those engagement sessions that were put forward. What's changed? So what has changed since those initial discussions in September about things that might be able to do different? So I would like to see over the next month, is it 6 weeks, 5-6 weeks, is them to re-engage with Connect at this point, and see, A, if they're still interested, B, if they think things should or could be different, and also other opportunities that they've already seen coming through. So right now it is meeting with them, seeing if they're willing, able, or they see a benefit in these 3s. I'm not asking for money yet. I don't know what they'll come back with into that sense. Is that helping at all? Because I can try to explain it better.
Kind of, but the motion is to conduct 3 public engagement sessions.
It's to explore the opportunities.
So they're, okay. So there will not be having public engagement sessions before that April 8th. It's for them to see having something past April 8th of these 3 sessions.
My intent of the motion was for administration to go back to Connect, knowing that these discussions had happened earlier. And we're focusing on, Sue and I had talked about that if there would be time for about 3, what would their proposal be to us? I'm not asking you to ask for a flat-out agreement to what these will be. It's so we can vote on information as to what they're ready and capable of preparing as this year moves forward.
Okay, so when that's reported back by the 8th, then I'll be able to see who's driving the bus, who's having direction and all that. Okay, great.
Yeah, that was my intent when Sue and I were discussing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried.
Aye. Aye.
15.4, addressing misinformation in the community.
Well, I'll speak to it a little bit. Well, you know what, I'll make the motion first. I move that City Council directs administration to start the process of addressing misinformation being spread within our community. And I will speak to that briefly. There is a lot of chatter in our community that isn't necessarily factual. Some of it might be, some of it is, some of it is not. And I really have a problem with, thank you, sir, can I have another? In the sense that we're not able publicly, at least as an organization, to defend ourselves and have not been coming back with, hey, wait a second, that's not accurate. And I think that it's time that for the people that have been getting dumped on within this organization, to be able to say, hey, we got your back as a council, and the same to administration. So I think that this is very important. I know a lot of the some of the statements that are out there are just not truthful. Now, whether or not that's out of spite or if it's just a lack of information, but either way, it's not right. And so with this motion, I think it's important to start addressing some of this misinformation.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley. Any discussion? Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will support this motion. I think our community, as has been mentioned, is hearing multiple different variations of information. And as Dean said, some of it is accurate, some of it is partially accurate, and some of it is not accurate at all. And I think it's important that we as a council are able to communicate in a way with our public to make sure that they understand the ins and outs of the debates and the discussions we're having, and hearing and challenging people's misunderstanding or misrepresentation of those discussions. So I will support that motion.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with my two previous speaking colleagues. I would just say that in addition to this, if people have questions, please make contact with us to get the answers rather than listening to somebody else in the coffee shop or on Facebook or on TikTok or something like that. I just appreciate people checking with us to get the correct answer rather than spreading falsehoods. Thank you.
Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Anything else from administration? We'll adjourn at 12:16.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
That last motion, was that a unanimous motion of council?
It was, yep.
Yes, thank you.
We will reconvene at 1:22 for P&T. We are adjourned, yep, at 12:16.
And what time we